Welcome to Outback Outdoors. Make sure you like, subscribe, and click the alert to stay up to date on all our new videos.
Today, public land mule deer. Let's jump right into it. Who's a mule deer hunter? Who's an archery mule deer hunter? Okay. If you're not an archery mule deer hunter, this applies to you. It doesn't matter. You just got to get closer if you have a bow in hand, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. Spotting and stalking mule deer. One of the funnest things you can do with your clothes on. Okay. There's a lot of nuances to it. I'm going to show you a video here because this is a hunt that happened where the close proximity of bow hunting, I think it ups the ante a little bit. I'll let you decide. This is a hunt where a good buddy of mine, Dave Baronio, we've got this buck bedded. You notice how windy it is. For us, mule deer hunting, wind is our friend. You can see the buck bedded there, down there in the bottom. If you look real close, the next time it goes to that screen, there's also a buck bedded above him, okay? Now he wants to shoot the buck on the bottom, definitely a better buck. See that buck bedded right there? Now that buck is heads on the ground. He gets up, as you see, buck is right here. They're pretty close, about 7 yards. What pin do you shoot for 7 yards? All of them. No, I'm just kidding. So, we're talking, that's the culmination, right? But getting to that spot, that's like the recipe of a good taco, right? So the first thing we do in Colorado is you got to draw the tag, all right? There are states where you can still buy some over-the-counter stuff, and there is some easier to draw tags in Colorado. We got to set our expectations, okay? If I'm going and I spend 22 points and I'm going to a Unit 44 for 4th Rifle, my expectations are going to be high. I hunted that unit 3-4 years ago, and I passed on probably 13 190 bucks. And I should have shot a buck that was over 200, but he was so close I grabbed my bow instead of the rifle. Why do you take a bow on a rifle hunt? I'm a moron. He was 35 yards, and he's rutting, so he's stupid, and he's walking, and we're leaning against the truck, glassing where he's supposed to be on that ridge. He was down in the bottom and walked up out on us. Anyway, didn't work out. I ate my tag, but my expectations were I'm not going to shoot a small buck. I'm going to shoot this. I've killed a lot of 140s, 150s, 160s. This was my chance to kill a big buck and I'm not going to take a young buck, or I wasn't going to take a buck that was below 200. My choice. There was a buck that we passed on that was 23 points, but he was the mainframe of a 140-inch buck. 23 points. He wasn't impressive to me. Game warden, who had actually got the tag on a reissue, shot that buck. He went 196. I'm a moron. So, setting our expectations. We got to do our homework. A lot of that comes even prior to applying. The area and the size of the buck, the area and the size of buck you're targeting is going to set your expectations. And you have to set them before you step foot into the woods. You don't want to be looking down the barrel or at full draw going, do I want to shoot this buck? It's too late. Decide before. I live by a code of shoot on the first day what you would shoot on the last day. And I can live with that. So you get into, you see these type of bucks, top left, mid-range. Impressive, they're pretty cool. Real cool because I shot that one with a stick bow. That's always fun, right? The one on the right, fuzzy wuzzy mule deer. Now this is a 180-inch buck, 184, right? But I knew he was there. That was the only buck I was hunting. Now if I went to that area where I shot those bucks expecting to shoot that buck, I might as well stay in camp. The genetics aren't there, right? The next things we have to factor into is terrain. What type of terrain are we going to be hunting? Every different type of terrain is going to dictate the type of hunt you're going to go on, how you're going to hunt it, the equipment you need. If I'm in the high country, and let me explain what I mean high country, I'm talking 9 to 12. So we're talking just below timberline to above timberline. I instantly go to those early season mule deer bucks in the high country. Still in velvet, right? That's what I'm talking when I'm talking high country. How is my backpack going to be different for that hunt than if I'm hunting in the lowlands? It's going to be very different, right? Because I might have my camp on my back, right? I might be hopping, ridge hopping, glassing, trying to find, right? Okay? Or, here's an example. Nice little fuzzy wuzzy. Lowland draws. What about lowland draws? Does that make sense? So I'm talking cuts. Where I grew up, it was called arroyos. Arroyos. Okay? Say that with me. Arroyos. So cut banks, right? Broken country. I love this because you can spot them. They disappear. And as long as you watch that big draw, they don't come out. You know they're in there somewhere. Then it's cat and mouse, right? Then you're working different angles trying to see him. And sure enough, he's bedded up under this cut bank. Nah. Then you get the wind right and go kill him, right? So that's that lowland country. A lot of that in some coming off the foothills, western Nebraska, Wyoming, some of that country. New Mexico has a lot of that. So that's an example of the lowland. Then you get into the cedar, the sagebrush flats, right? Foothills, great example, foothills. We got a ton of that up and down here on the western slope. Outside of Craig, right? That's 201, right? Okay. And you're dealing with different topography, different terrain. Then you get into agricultural areas. Sometimes those aren't public, sometimes, very rarely they're public. But a lot of times you can utilize those for the travel quarter. Very rarely if you have an ag field where the animals bed there. They're gonna work up the draws, bed there, and come back. We can create an ambush situation, right? On those travel routes, okay? And sometimes you get permission to hunt. Or you shoot them and they jump the fence and then you go knock on the door and they let you come get him in the middle of their alfalfa. Sometimes that happens. So terrain. During early scouting and researching, what am I looking for? Number one is a glassing spot. I don't know how many times I've seen people taking their bows for a walk. You will never outwalk elk and you will never outwalk mule deer. I got friends, and you guys probably all do, or you're one of them, that puts miles on their boots and doesn't see jack. Yet I'm the guy on the hill watching you jump all those elk out, all those mule deer out, because you're walking down here and your thermals are going right up to them and they're bedded on that bench. I tell people ask me, what's the number one thing I should do if I'm gonna go hunting? Get a good pair of optics and don't walk through country. Find a glassing spot and be patient. Hey, I'm the guy that grew up in New Mexico. I didn't even have optics. I had a gun and a scope, and if I needed to look at anything, I looked at it through my scope. We walked country out and we hoped we could get a shot as we saw the backside of that deer running out of the canyon. That's how we hunted. I didn't know any different. Then as I got older, I started thinking, and I got around people that were really good hunters, and they weren't putting on half the miles I were. And they were killing animals every year. The difference is they were locating and then working in. If you're not seeing elk or deer where you're looking, move. That's the difference between us and whitetail hunters. If you're in that tree stand and the wind is right, all you can do is sit. You can't go walking around the woods because you'll never see anything, right? Big difference, okay? So, how do we do that? We're gonna pick our spots. I am a big fan of onX, okay? Situation like this, if I'm coming into this country, I can see my entryways through my ATV or, four-wheeler or whatever. And then I'm looking, where can I get up? I might be able to park here and walk out to that, see that little point there? I should be able to see about a mile in almost all the way around me. That's what we want. I don't have to worry about my wind blowing animals out. I don't have to worry about, well, when I'm scouting for sure, I don't have to worry about people walking over me. They might walk through where I'm looking, but a lot of times I'll see people walking and that gets deer up and I see them go and then they bed here. Now I wouldn't have seen them because they were already bedded. Okay? So if you'll utilize this, find your glassing points. Don't expect to go scouting and see deer and then see them opening morning. Don't do that. That's ridiculous. Same thing with elk. Just locate, go to your glassing spot, mark it on your map deal, and say, yes, I can see this. You can look around, make sure, okay, this is glassing spot 1. Then I'm going to find another one. I want to have options. When are you going to see animals moving? Anyone? Early morning, late evening. Now, mind you, I have been so far out that I wasn't going to walk back, and so I take a nap under a tree and I get bored, so I start glassing, and I'll be danged if something doesn't stand up. Hey, there's a deer right there. I didn't even know, right? So that happens. But primarily we're going to see when they're moving, they're easiest to spot. Then we watch them bed. Voila, now we have it as Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a shot, right? So picking the right glassing spot is key. This is not the right glassing spot, okay? How long could I sit there with a handheld binoculars? What moron took that picture? Oh. All right, handheld binos. You're gonna have handheld binos. It's a must. I have a little bit of a shake. I don't know why. My hand does shake just a little bit, and so if I'm concentrating on holding my glasses, I use 10 power because 12 power I'll get seasick. That's just me. I know guys that have steady hands and go, but I can't do it very long. So my key. The most important glass I carry is my 15s. I've also used, Maven makes an 18 that's really clear. I'm a big Swarovski fan. They're expensive as all get out, but I tell you, I promise you, spend as much money as you can on your glass. It's worth it. There's nothing worse than you finally find a buck and the headache you have from eye strain is miserable. And I'm gonna tell you what eye strain is. Eye strain comes from the lack of clarity from the center of your eyesight or your picture to the edge. Okay? Why are Swarovskis $3,200 and Bushnells are $250? Because Bushnells have at the very center it's clear, but the edge to edge clarity is crud. So if you're moving even on a tripod and you're moving around and you're looking at the edge of imagine your eye darting to the edge of your vision, your eyeball always wants to be forced back to the clearest spot. You're fighting that all day long. That's eye strain. Okay? So the more quality glass you can get, I promise you, you'll be able to glass longer. So that's what I use. I use an outdoorsman tripod. Also, they don't give it away, but I've had it for 12 years and it's light. And if it breaks, it's lifetime warranty. I'll send it back and they'll fix it and send me a new one. Or send me a new one. Worth it. Okay? Because I hope to be hunting in another 10 years still. Okay? Last thing I throw in my bag, only if I don't have my camp on my back, is a spotting scope. My 15s are fine if I'm bailing off and I'm gonna be living like a caveman for a couple days, right? But I don't take my spotting scope out and look through it like my binoculars, because I'll get a headache for that too. What I do is I find an animal, now I'm gonna classify, then I'll pull that out, or I think that's an antler. Boom, I'll pull my spotting scope out, I can get clarification. But that's because it's in my day pack. It's not my overnight pack, it's in my day pack. And I'm within, however long getting to and from where I'm coming from, okay? Get comfortable. I can't tell you how bad this is. Again, along with the spotting scope, if you can, take a cheap lightweight camp chair, and then you can put your tripod kind of over you and lean back. You can get real comfortable, especially with your binoculars. The other thing is they make a nice little, you guys seen the pads that you throw under your sleeping bag? Well, they have little ones, and they're for glassing, for sitting down. That's good. Where I hunt a lot of cactus, yeah, the first time you realize that you put your pad on a cactus and you didn't catch one in the behind, you'll be glad you did. And they're cheap. So get comfortable, always use a tripod, please. It'll be worth, you will find more animals. Example, my nephew's got into hunting, and my nephew's like 26, so he's not a kid, he's a grown man, but he lives in New Mexico. So I invited him out to go on a hunt with me, elk hunt, and he was expecting us to move a lot and stuff like this, and he had his binoculars, and then he was blown away that we sat for hours looking at it. So I had an extra pair of binoculars, and I lent him a tripod. He said, I've never seen this much elk in my life, because it was always this. The other thing, if you're comfortable, I was, well, I'm not gonna tell you where it was, but I was on a ridge hunting mule deer. You guys almost got me there. I almost gave away some secrets. I was on a ridge hunting mule deer, and I was in my little chair, kind of tucked up. It was a little warm, wasn't quite midday, but the deer had just bedded down, and I had 2 bucks bedded, and I'm watching them. And I hear something, and I look up, and it's 2 bow hunters. And they're probably from me to that restroom sign, so maybe 100 yards down the ridge, but I'm a little bit over the edge in the shade. And they come up, and they say, one of the guys, I gotta give him credit, he sat down, put his elbows on his knees, and he glassed. I timed him. 12 minutes, and they were up and gone. The bucks were 250 yards across the canyon from them. Never saw them. Right? Okay? Get comfortable. Be patient. Location, location, location. That's not just for restaurants. It's key for glassing spots.
Thanks for watching Outback Outdoors. We encourage you to comment below, and as always, like, subscribe, and click the alert to stay up to date on all our new videos.